Hola a todos mis queridos amigos y bienvenidos aquí conmigo a este nuevo programa sobre una psíquica y medio. En esta oportunidad, ya como ustedes se habrán dado cuenta en mis pasados posts en mi página oficial de Facebook, como también en videos que he puesto en YouTube, están basados prácticamente en lo que está pasando ahorita en los gobiernos, y es algo que me está asustando muchísimo porque no todas las personas están tomando esto muy en serio y no lo están tomando en cuenta. He recibido en muchas de mis meditaciones esto mismo, una sensación de peligro, de que algo está pasando, lo cual me llevó a investigar qué es ese peligro, qué se supone que es ese peligro, y me encontré con las noticias que les estoy compartiendo y les he compartido ya desde hace unos días atrás. Esto es lo que ellos se referían a este peligro inminente que está pasando. Y es importante que todos nosotros aprendamos, porque eso es lo que ellos desean, que nosotros sepamos la verdad y asimismo oremos y juntemos todas nuestras energías y realmente nos demos cuenta de quiénes son ellos, quiénes son esas personas manipuladoras que están gobernándonos desde millones, estamos hablando de millones de años atrás. Estamos hablando desde los años después de Egipto, ya cuando Jesús nació, en ese tiempo ellos existían. Estamos hablando de los años 1500, 1400, 1600, y ellos todavía siguen y siguen y siguen. Muchas de estas profecías, como ustedes lo saben, del famoso señor Nostradamus, sus profecías, las cuales muchas de ellas se han convertido en verdad. Él hablaba de los tres anticristos, el primero, según comparando sus predicciones, se sabe que es Napoleón, ese es el primer anticristo. El segundo anticristo, según las predicciones de Nostradamus, se sabe que era Hitler. Y el tercero está por venir. Es una sensación horrible porque cuando este señor Obama, el presidente de los Estados Unidos, cuando él fue electo, realmente nunca me dio buena espina, y a pesar de que las personas pensaban que el hecho de que él fuera una persona de color, él cambiaría el mundo entero, cambiaría la paz, cambiaría el país donde ellos estaban en gran dificultad, las dificultades por paz, y cual esto hasta el momento en el 2016 esto no ha sucedido. Entonces es lo mismo que me pasa con la reina de Inglaterra, no sé por qué, pero ella siempre me ha traído mala espina. Y es ese tipo de situaciones cuando uno se encuentra de cara a cara con alguien, o ya sea en foto, y las energías como que no concuerdan, hay algo malo, hay algo extraño. Bueno, para mí, muchas de las personas creen en el anticristo y en la venida de Jesús nuevamente. Esto está escrito en la Biblia. Para mí la Biblia no es un libro que nos habla verdaderamente de Dios, porque yo respeto toda creencia, yo soy católica, no soy practicante, pero por lo general yo veo la Biblia como un documento místico, mitológico, astrológico, filosófico, pero es algo que la Biblia es algo que sus escritos fueron manipulados por estos grandes poderes que están controlando nuestro país, y todavía lo siguen haciendo, sus familias, sus generaciones, desde hace mucho tiempo. Ahora ustedes han escuchado los términos de Illuminati, los masones, los Freemasons, los Elite. Y muchas personas, cuando uno les habla de esto, ellos creen que simplemente es una teoría, es un mito, quizás la creación de la imaginación de alguien, pero vaya, abramos los ojos, 100% seguro que existe, ellos existen y todavía siguen existiendo. Está pasando debajo de nuestras narices y nosotros no nos estamos dando cuenta. Tenemos que abrir los ojos, tenemos que despertar. Ustedes creen que todo lo que está pasando en América les va a afectar solo a América. Esto no es así. Todo lo que pasa en América nos afecta a todo el mundo. ¿Por qué? Porque el video siguiente que les voy a mostrar les va a explicar a ustedes cómo esas personas que viven en su mayoría de tiempo en América, residen en América, son las personas que están controlando el mundo entero. Entonces todo lo que pasa en América nos va a afectar a nosotros. Ellos desde hace mucho, mucho tiempo atrás, y eso es otra cosa que ustedes pueden buscar en YouTube, donde hablan de una nueva orden mundial. Están hablando de ¿qué es esa nueva orden mundial? Esa nueva orden mundial que ellos tanto hablan es la orden mundial donde ellos quieren tomar el control absoluto de todo. Su plan es insertar, ya si ustedes se rían o crean que es fantasioso, tomen esto en serio, porque esto está por pasar si nosotros no lo evitamos. Ellos quieren quitar todo lo que es dinero y tarjetas de crédito y débito para reemplazarlo por unos chips que nos van a incorporar en nuestros cuerpos. Cuando eso pase, prácticamente vamos a estar bajo el control absoluto de ellos, porque no habrá escapada alguna. Y las personas que han leído la Biblia, esto es a lo que llaman en el Apocalipsis la marca del demonio o la marca del diablo. Entonces aprendan, edúquense, por favor, abran los ojos, compartan con sus familias, con sus amigos. Este es un mensaje muy importante. Ahora, ¿sabían ustedes que, como ya lo dije, esta familia, no solo esta familia, pero hay otras familias, porque son más o menos como 12, 13 familias que son pertenecientes a los Illuminati, a la gente más millonaria del mundo? Ellos son los dueños del mundo. ¿Sabían que ellos controlaban hasta lo que comemos, la tecnología que sale o que nos van a dar o la que tenemos, la ropa que vestimos, qué educación recibimos, entre otras muchas cosas más? Ellos controlan absolutamente todo. ¿Sabían que ellos son los grandes banqueros del mundo que controlan nuestro dinero? Ellos pueden crear una crisis en cualquier momento y a ellos no les afecta porque ellos son archibillonarios. ¿Sabían que ellos son los dueños de la media, como las poderosas media como el CNN, Fox News y todos esos canales en América, revistas, periódicos, donde ellos son los que controlan esto y controlan qué es lo que sale y qué es lo que nos sale en las noticias? Entonces, esa es la manera como ellos nos mantienen ciegos. Por eso es que no sabemos la verdad. ¿Sabían ustedes que ellos son los dueños de Hollywood? Ellos son los dueños de Hollywood porque ellos nos tienen que mantener hipnotizados para que nosotros no sepamos la verdad. Los grandes deportes como el fútbol y el tenis son otra cosa que ellos tienen poder. Y nuevamente les digo, ríanse todo lo que quieran, pero cuando pasen las cosas que van a pasar, porque ustedes ya están viendo la situación que está pasando en América en este momento, todas esas situaciones son falsas, son creadas por los gobiernos. Así que ustedes tienen que despertar. No duerma, despiértese y dése cuenta de la realidad. Ellos quieren tomar total control absoluto de nosotros y del mundo. ¿Por qué ellos están haciendo eso? Ustedes se están preguntando. Porque nos estamos saliendo de las manos. Yo recuerdo en el año 2000, cuando fui la primera vez a un computador, muy poca información podía yo encontrar en el internet. Pero hoy en día, ponga usted cualquier cosa en el internet, ¡pum!, ahí está, ahí sale la información, todo lo que usted necesita saber. Muchas personas que están en contra del gobierno y han estado en contra de ese gobierno, esa mafia que trabaja dentro del gobierno americano. Estas personas que están en contra del gobierno han estado en contra de esa mafia por muchos años, pero como ya tenemos ya bastante tecnología, tenemos más libertad de expresión, la gente está trabajando para despertar la conciencia de las personas que se den cuenta qué es lo que está pasando realmente. Entonces nos estamos saliendo de las manos de ellos. Ellos ya no nos pueden controlar, porque además de esto, ustedes saben que el mundo está sobrepopulado. Esto no es conveniente para ellos, porque entre más gente haya, será más difícil para controlarnos. Edúquense, por favor, les pido, vayan, miren y desen cuenta en que ya hay evidencia que nos dice que estas falsas guerras como el Irak, esta falsa guerra de ISIS, ¿quién fue la persona que fundó Al Qaeda, ISIS? Y todas estas guerras que han pasado en Orlando, todas estas masacres que han habido de policías, esto lo ha fundado esta mafia dentro del mismo gobierno, estas personas que ustedes van a ver en el próximo video. investiguen y miren sobre eso. Esto no es simplemente una teoría, mis queridos amigos, no es una teoría nomás. Esto ya está comprobado, así que busquen en el internet, busquen la información, abran los ojos y dense cuenta qué es lo que está pasando. El mes pasado en Rusia, el presidente de Rusia, Vladimir Putin, en una conferencia abrió la boca y dijo exactamente quién fue el culpable y quién creó ISIS y quién los armó. Él sabe muy bien lo que ellos están haciendo y saben muy bien de su nuevo programa de este nuevo mundo que ellos quieren, nueva orden del mundo que ellos quieren crear. Y por eso Vladimir Putin no está de acuerdo con esto. Por eso es que ellos están creando también falsa propaganda en contra de Rusia y de Vladimir Putin para desacreditarlo. Esta gente son los mafiosos que le digo que están dentro de la mismo gobierno americano, son los sionistas. Los mismos judíos repulsan a esta gente, porque los judíos no tienen nada que ver con los sionistas, pero usted vaya, dígale a una persona sionista, inmediatamente piensan que son judíos. No, los mismos judíos protestan en contra de ellos, porque esta gente quiere controlar el mundo. Ellos son judíos, los sionistas son judíos, pero son judíos muy cochinos, de lo peor, lo peor de un ser humano. Y esta gente está en todo el mundo como una plaga. Esta familia tiene bancos en todo país del mundo y controla nuestra economía. Así que a todos ustedes les invito a abrir los ojos y que se enteren de todo esto. Ahora, otra cosa antes de que termine, otra cosa que me enteré es de el presidente Obama. Él es muslim. Nadie sabía absolutamente de esto antes de él entrar en poder y él escondió esto. ¿Por qué tenía que esconderlo? Él es muslim y se le ha encontrado ya varias veces burlándose de la Biblia católica y riéndose de ella, lo cual me parece muy irrespetuoso. Así que, gente, por favor, abran los ojos, por favor, por el bienestar de sus familias, de sus hijos, de sus generaciones, de sus nietos en un futuro. Es tiempo de abrir los ojos y empiecen a expandir esta palabra. Compártanla con sus amigos, conocidos, con sus jefes en las calles donde puedan, porque es muy importante. Esta familia, como otras familias millonarias, tienen que ser paradas de inmediato. Bueno, amigos, y aquí los dejo aquí con un video muy interesante. Les pido que lo vean de principio a final de David Icke, donde él habla la corrupción tan grande de estos sionistas judíos.
Now, this might be controversial. I don't give a damn, really, because, you know, we've reached the point here where we've got to start saying what is and not running away from it. What I'm about to say now... What I'm about to say now, virtually no one else, there are some, and some that, you know, some of them are characters I don't really would like to spend an evening with, to be honest, and some are. But most people, the overwhelming majority of people in what we call conspiracy research, won't touch this subject, right? Well, I'm going to bloody touch it because I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of people being frightened and intimidated into not touching it. Thank you. Right, first of all, we as a human race have got to get our fricking heads around what this is, because it ain't what we're told it is. It's not about what's right and beneficial for Jewish people. Jewish people are its victims, not its beneficiaries. Jewish people have been hung out to dry again and again by this crowd that claim to have their best interests at heart, like hell they do. That's why I call this Rothschild Zionism. It was created by them, it is controlled by them to this minute, and it was created as a secret society within the web to massively contribute to the manipulation and control of our global society and individual countries, etc., etc. It's Rothschild Zionism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, not that anti-Semitism means what we think it does, because Zionism is not about Jewish people. Even in its play-out way or world, it is a political system, a political philosophy. At its core, it is a secret society putting its agents in places of power. One of the very few things that Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, has ever said, which is true, is you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. Because of the propaganda, we equate Zionism with Jewish people. It's not how it is. To a very, very large extent. How many people know this? How many Jewish people around the world are protesting, have organizations created to protest against Zionism? Zionism and Judaism are diametrically opposed. Zionism is state-organized terror. How many times do we see this in the newspapers? Never. End of Zionism equals peace. Israel, stop killing Palestinians. I am Jewish and I want that. Why don't we hear about this? We condemn any Zionist aggression against Iran. I thought every Jewish person in the world wanted to bomb Iran. That's what the media seem to give us an indication about. Another Jew against Zionism. Over and over. Zionist spokesmen do not represent world Jewry. How many people... I thought Ahmadinejad of Iran is supposed to be the great demon of all Jewish people. Look at it. The demonization comes from Rothschild Zionism. We've been totally misled about what it is. Rothschild dynasty created Israel. It paid for the first people out of Europe to go and people Israel after the war. It paid for the building of the Knesset. It paid for the building of the Supreme Court building with all its Illuminati symbols all over it. And some of the people who've broken out of the family, I quote one of them in my book, have actually said, and as I've been saying for years, because it's bloody obvious, that Israel is not the homeland of Jewish people, it is the fiefdom of the Rothschild dynasty, created out of Rothschild Zionism, a secret society. And Rothschild Zionism has been used via Israel to devastate, slaughter, torture an entire nation of human beings, while claiming to be against terrorism. This is the dictionary definition of genocide: the systematic and widespread extermination or attempted extermination of an entire national, racial, religious or ethnic group. Never can what is happening in Palestine and Gaza have been described so accurately. More and more people killed through war, killed through bombing attacks, killed through shootings, killed through lack of food and adequate medical care. Gaza, the most crowded piece of land on earth, is little more, ironically, than a concentration camp. And the world looks on. This is the face of Palestine. Well, tell me what you see. Combat boots. Yeah, another terrorist 5-year-old. And all the time, Palestinian homes are being demolished in occupied land and given over to these extremist settlers who believe they have a right to it because it says so in some bloody Bible. And then we've got this wall, security fence, which has taken great tracts of Palestinian land, all against international law and all the rest of it. And here is a children's playground being sacrificed as the wall continues, security fence continues its endless way. This green is Palestinian land in 1946. Then we see what has happened since. This is 2000. We're in 2010 now. It's much smaller than that. What was I saying? The systematic and widespread extermination or attempted extermination of an entire national, racial, religious or ethnic group. And I say to these Rothschild Zionists, don't you bloody dare talk about racism of others when you are behind this. Israel is an apartheid society. Not just between Israelis and Palestinians, but through Israeli society. It's incredibly apartheid. The way they treat the black Jews from Ethiopia is absolutely grotesque. As is spokesman doing that, then talking about other people's racism. We've got to go for that. I mean, and people, Jewish people, have seen it. They can see what it is. There's some fantastic Jewish people in Israel who are resisting this. Young people who go to jail because they won't serve in the army because of what the army's doing to the Palestinians. Magnificent people. Never get talked about in the mainstream media, hardly. And no matter what is said about Israel, this is Israel's response. Why? Because Israel is the fiefdom of the Rothschild dynasty, which also controls the American administration, the British administration, and so Rothschild's one arm is not going to criticize Rothschild's other arm. In the Matrix movie, there's something called the Zion mainframe. Well, Zionism, Rothschild Zionism, is in so many ways a mainframe of this network. And it pervades all the way through. And it's not about, oh, these Jewish people here and these Jewish people there. It's Rothschild Zionists who are there, and they answer to the Rothschild dynasty. Therefore, they play out the agenda of the web in a coordinated way. Now, before I start this, a lot of names coming up. I'm going to go just through a bit of the American administration and a few other things, just to give you a feel for it, for people that haven't seen the extent of this. Before I start, one fact. Jewish people in America are less than 2% of the population. A significant number of them will not be Rothschild Zionists, and therefore the ratio of Rothschild Zionists is even smaller, significantly smaller than the 2%. Okay. Obama's immediate handler is a guy called Rahm Emanuel. He has served in the Israeli army. He's the White House Chief of Staff. He does whatever he says. His father, Emanuel's father, was a terrorist in the Irgun terrorist group that bombed Israel into existence in 1948. And this is the relationship between Rahm Emanuel, he's the kind of Peter Mandelson of America, and Obama. Hey, you want a Nobel Peace Prize? I can sort it, son. I can sort it, son. No problem. All pictures like that, by the way, are by a guy called David Dees, who's a political artist, brilliant, American, works out of Sweden. Uses images so powerfully to tell 1,000 words as they go. This guy is the second handler in the White House. His name's David Axelrod, Rothschild Zionist, and he was the man who orchestrated the entire election campaigns of Obama against Hillary Clinton and then against John McCain. The main funder and orchestrator of the funding, in terms of individuals, of Obama was a guy called George Soros, Rothschild Zionist, who manipulates countries and uses his networks and funding to create coups in countries where they want to change the regime change. And he bets on currencies like he bet on the pound years ago and makes a fortune out of the demise of the economy of other countries because he has no empathy. Henry Kissinger, massive Rothschild Zionist, has served that dynasty's agenda for 40 years, if not 50 years. And he's now an advisor to Obama, even though he's officially a Republican. The American economy, the American economic team, is led by Timothy Geithner, Treasury Secretary, Rothschild Zionist, and Larry Summers, Rothschild Zionist. The Federal Reserve in America, which controls the American economy in so many ways, it's a privately owned, not government-owned central bank, and it's privately owned by the Rothschilds and the affiliates of the Rothschilds, is Bernard Bernanke, Rothschild Zionist. He replaced Alan Greenspan, Rothschild Zionist, who was head of the Federal Reserve from Reagan Bush right up into the Boy Bush administration, and he systematically took away the checks and balances which allowed the mayhem of 2008 to unfold. We keep hearing about Goldman Sachs and all the mayhem that it's created, both in the crash of 2008 and the crash of the economy in Greece. Fundamentally involved Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is a fiefdom of the Rothschilds, headed by Lord Blankfein, Rothschild Zionist. The World Bank, headed by a Rothschild Zionist. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, headed by a Rothschild Zionist. European Central Bank, headed by a Rothschild Zionist. A stream of so-called czars, as they call them in America, controlling different policies and areas, policy areas of the Obama administration, Rothschild Zionists, including Cass Sunstein, who has actually written a paper saying people who have conspiracy theories should either be banned from expressing them or taxed for expressing them. Taxed! Climate change policy in the Obama administration is controlled by Carol Brown, a Rothschild Zionist, and Todd Steen, Rothschild Zionist. Major area of policy. The American administration is utterly awash with Rothschild Zionists, and that is not by accident. It's because they're agents of the dynasty or agents of the control system. It's not about race. Mossad is not the intelligence agency of Israel. It's the intelligence agency of the Rothschilds, and that's why it turns up all over the world in false flag set up terrorist events and assassinations and all that stuff, because it's not carrying out the policy of Israel, it's carrying out the policy of the Rothschilds that control Israel. Another writer, a former BBC and ITN journalist, produced a book, Zionism, the Real Enemy of the Jews, and my God, is that true? And he points out, Jewish people make up less than 2% of the American population, but account for 50%, I would say Rothschild Zionists, 50% of the political campaign contributions. And that's why, no matter how these people argue at election time, including this country and others, they're all agreed on one thing. What goes on in Gaza? Keep quiet, keep your head down. And I block that out because I don't want anyone to see what's behind it. It's horrific. This man, magnificent Israeli, called Mordecai Vanunu, went to jail for 18 years for revealing the truth that Israel is a nuclear power. He's still got massive restrictions on his movement and what he can say. And you know, and he announced officially that he was continuing it. There is an official policy that on Israel's nuclear weaponry, America doesn't ask and Israel doesn't say. That's an official policy. Iran hasn't even got it yet, and they want to invade the bloody place. The main lobby group in America is called APEC, America-Israel Public Affairs Committee, which sounds like an official, but it's a lobby group. It's headed by a guy called Lee Rosenberg, who is a very close friend of him and comes from the same political cesspit that we call Chicago. So when this question is asked, Americans, do you dare to say Israeli terrorism? No, no, because of the way it's controlled, like I say. The Rothschild Zionists control the media and Hollywood. Don't take my word for it. Los Angeles Times columnist Joel Steen, Rothschild Zionist, wrote an article proclaiming that Americans who don't think Jews, I would say Rothschild Zionists, control Hollywood, are just plain dumb. I had to scour the trades to come up with 6 Gentiles in high positions at entertainment companies, but lo and behold, even one of that 6, AMC President Charles Collier, turns out to be a Jew. As a proud Jew, I want America to know of our accomplishment. Yes, we control Hollywood. Leading Israeli paper columnist said, the Jews, Rothschild Zionists I would say again, the Jews do control the American media. This is very clear, and claiming otherwise is an insult to common knowledge. And what do the media do? They keep the truth from us and keep us diverted from what's really going on. It's an elephant in the bloody living room, and people are terrified of going there because they're terrified of being called racist and anti-Semitic and all that. They'll call you anti-Semitic. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Very quickly, it's the same in this country. There was a very, very good documentary, and it was a kind of stand back in amazement that it actually got out, by a guy called Peter Oborne, a journalist, in the Dispatches series on Channel 4, that looked at the Rothschild Zionist control of British politics through organisations known as the Friends of Israel. Each party has one, but of course they all connect, so it's actually one network. And again, just like in America, never any criticism. The British government, under Tony Blair and much of it under Gordon Brown to the end, was controlled by Peter Mandelson, Rothschild Zionist. Note the hands. Rothschild Zionist. He even flaunts it, this guy, goes on holiday with them in all the papers with this leading light of the family Jacob Rothschild. So many Rothschild Zionists end up in government here, like the possible leader of the Labour Party, David Miliband. Foreign Secretary before the election, Ed Miliband, head of climate change and environment, and this guy, Jack Straw, who's been in so many of the major offices since Blair came to power in 1997. The new Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron, Rothschild Zionist. This guy, Tony Blair, was completely controlled by them, as Bush was, which is why they moved as one unit to do what the Rothschilds wanted, which was to invade Iraq and Afghanistan. And to shut people up, the Rothschilds have created organisations like the Anti-Defamation League. They haven't sent me a bloody Christmas card for years, these people. I don't want to upset them or what. But I'm speaking in New York in October. That could be funny. Anyway, they set these organisations up to target those people who are saying the sort of things that I'm saying. The idea is to throw "you're a racist" at people, so to shut them up or to discredit them. Like I say, I don't give a shit. You throw it, son, and I'll hit the bugger back. Thank you very much. As a result, when you criticise Israel, you are promoted as criticising Jewish people and therefore being racist. This is how it works. And I have to say, the robot radicals on the so-called left of politics are played like a violin by these people. They go out and they protest, "You're an anti-Semite!" Okay, come in and listen to what I'm going to say. No, they never bloody do. And then you get people like the magnificent Norman Finkelstein, who's a Jewish man who's had his academic career destroyed for speaking out. His parents suffered in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany, and when he exposes these frauds and fakes in the Rothschild Zionist movement and what they do against Jewish people in general, he's called a self-hater. They can't say he's anti-Semitic, although sometimes they even use that. He's a self-hater. No, he's a decent man doing decent things. You want to try it? And the idea is to create, and they're doing it, hate laws in which truth is no defense. Even though what you say is true, it's no defense. If people are upset by it, then too bad, you've broken the hate laws. They're now targeting the internet, which has been so magnificent in communicating this information. And who's doing that? In America, J. Rockefeller, Rothschild Zionist. In this country, up to the last election, he rushed through a bill to this effect just before the election, Peter Mandelson, Rothschild Zionist. And just this week, Obama has nominated this lady, Eleanor Kagan, the Solicitor General, to go onto the Supreme Court. Two things. One, that will make Rothschild Zionists making up nearly half the Supreme Court judges of America, 4 of the 9, when they are well under 2% of the American population. And she is vehemently in favour of laws banning freedom of speech in association with her mate, the conspiracy theorist Sunstein. It is an elephant in the living room, and we need to address it if we are going to unravel this cabal, because they don't want to frighten us into not going here for any other reason than they know if we go here, so much is going to unravel.